Hi, President Trump. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch our video. Today we're going to be talking about the crisis currently going on in Yemen. But to understand the full scope and how this crisis came to be, first we need to understand some basic history.
In the 1500s, the Ottoman Empire invaded the north part of Yemen for religious and economic purposes. Later on, the British would invade the south part of Yemen, again for economic purposes. This created two countries, one that was poor, one that was wealthy, and two that were religiously and culturally somewhat unique.
After the independence, the Yemen country took a stand.
So what had happened before the countries had unified is that there had been a revolution in the north part of Yemen where the Sayyids, which were families descended from the Prophet Muhammad, were overthrown. One of these families was the Houthis. They would come back later, and they are very angry.
Wait, and that's when?
Since the south of Yemen was so poor, and the north of Yemen was relatively rich,
they decided to come together and form one country, which is Yemen. After the independence, the country took a stand on the interaction with Iraq. In response, the other country from the Middle East cut it all the financial aid. Yemen was now a poor country.
All the while, President Saleh in the north had been using the Yemeni government forces to fight against the Houthis in the north, who were gaining power. Eventually, these Houthis would become so bitter and angry that they would invade the southern part of Yemen and take over important cities like Sana'a and Taz. Currently, Saudi Arabia views the Houthis as an Iranian proxy, so they have started bombing the Houthis, and they've also caught civilians with their bombs, and they have made a blockade that threatens to cut off food aid for over 10 million people.
There are lots of other countries currently involved with the crisis in Yemen. As I'm sure you know, the U.S. is giving lots of weapons to Saudi Arabia. These weapons are then used to attack the Yemen citizens.
We met with Greg Johnson, and he talked about how the Emiratis are trying to economically exploit Yemen with their Southern Transitional Council.
We also met with the other journalist, Safa Al-Hamed. I was really glad to talk with her because she told me something, that Yemen had a famine going on in this country, not because they didn't have any food, but because they didn't have the money to actually buy the food.
The films this journalist made also gave us an inside look into how the conditions are inside of Yemen. We saw how much famine was striking every single city inside of Yemen, and then how the hospitals are being overrun with all the patients and a lack of medical equipment.
They also talked to us about how governance in Yemen is very limited and how it is very difficult to get anything done, and oftentimes the government does not know what it's doing.
My teacher asked her a question. Why are people always focusing on the Jamal Khashoggi case while they should focus on the famine was going on in Yemen? And that was her answer.
And then we found out that it's more easy to focus on a conflict that's more, one action, because we saw a murder and everyone can say that's wrong. But the Yemen conflict can be very complicated, and not everyone knows exactly how it came to be or a solution that'll be the best to solve this problem.
Hopefully, the Khashoggi case will shed light on what is happening in Yemen.
And also that Saudi Arabia's involvement to worsen this conflict.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking time to watch our video. Goodbye.